everyone, and welcome to episode 734 of Longbox Heroes, the Lamborghini of comic book podcasts. I'm Todd, along with Joe. How are we doing today, Joe?
I'm doing good. Ready to talk about some comic book stuff.
Yeah.
A nice break from everything else that's been going on in my life.
Right. So hopefully it'll be a short show for you, too.
Maybe. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here. You know, I can wax poetic on everything for about a good 15, 20 minutes. You know.
Right.
I've been, and again, I mentioned it on After Dark this week, and I'll just make one quick passing here. I've been just as busy unemployed this last week than I have been unemployed if I was employed this past week.
But you know what? It warms my bacon-filled heart that I am seeing you more now that you're unemployed. So.
Yes. We'll see how long that lasts for. I don't want to guarantee 2 weeks, but I could maybe like pencil you in for 2 more weeks.
Oh, good. That's all I need. I just my dose of Joe, you know?
Yeah.
But so, would you like to know what we have on the show this week, though?
I would love to know what we're talking about on the show this week.
Right. In news, a pedigree logo is back retroactively. Advice ? On deadlines.
Oh my goodness.
And an update on a late hardcover that I'm constantly looking forward to. Conventions. The latest edition of Becky's My Walk Down Lois Lane, a spooktacular version. What we read last week, which was Detective Comics 1090, Nightwing 119, and Absolute Wonder Woman, number 1.
Can you tell we like DC Comics here?
Oh, don't get me started on my statistics on my app. So what we're looking forward to this week, Todd and Joe have issues where we reread Gail Simone's Secret Six. This week is issue 26. The return of Todd's Art Attack. Bah, bah, bah. And finally, in TV and movie talk, spoiler-filled talk of a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey Agatha. And when the Penguin, maybe Joe is a bit of an oracle. I'll give him points as we talk about that one. So, yeah, we have a lot to cover.
Yep, and it'll be a very unique TV talk this week, and let's just say that.
Okay.
So let's get into show news and what we're going to be talking about. So just came out this week, coming out this week, the latest issue of the James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno Nice House by the Sea, sequel to Nice House by the Lake. Issue 4 is out this week. Be sure to pick it up. However, this is the first issue in the current timeline to replace the DC Black Label logo with the Vertigo logo, and they have re-released second printings of issues 1, 2, and 3 with the Vertigo logo on them.
Right.
I'm not going to buy these books again. A different Joe at a different time would have said, no, they all need to say Vertigo. I'm going to throw out the first ones that I bought and rebuy them again with the Vertigo logo, but I'm okay. How about you, Todd?
I'm going to wait until they're in dollar bins down the line. Then I'm going to rip the covers off and just wrap my copies in the bag and board.
Yes.
And so it'll have the visual look of the Vertigo cover, but everything will be, intact and minty fresh on the inside, Joe. So
now I don't know if there's a different price point for consumers on them, but I know there is a lower price point on those ones specifically for retailers, if that's something that they so want to do. And also with the first trade of this, when this comes out, DC Warner Vertigo has already announced that they're going to do like an extra bit of a discount on the trade of this, since this is now the first official new Vertigo book in, the return of Vertigo.
Right. Hopefully same as the old Vertigo,
Yeah. Again, fingers crossed. I know you had said when we talked about this that the big thing that they need to do is bring Karen Berger back.
And Jeanette Kahn, bring them all back.
If they still want to be involved in the comic book industry, for sure. But at the very least, I would maybe throw a couple bucks their way to see if we can get them on a consulting fee,
Yeah, they could maybe scouting. That would be great.
Yeah.
Like just we're a couple of scouts going looking for creators. That would be good.
Now that being said, obviously I assume anything that was previously Black Label, as it gets printed going forward, new printings of them are going to be Vertigo.
I think we might have discussed this. I don't think everything Black Label will get it. Like, I don't see them. I see them keeping the Black Label logo. I don't remember if maybe they did say it was going away. I could be wrong. But like, if they're going to reprint Greg Smallwood's and Tom King's Justice League book, the Human Target, that'll probably stay Black Label. But anything new that they put under Vertigo, or anything that was once under Vertigo, will get the Vertigo label. But I think Black Label's staying around.
Okay.
Maybe
I think that makes a lot more sense in that regard. But obviously something like Nice House by the Sea would have been a Vertigo book.
Right.
When it came out. And that's the sort of stuff that I'm wondering. Like the stuff that was under Black Label, that doesn't have superheroes in it. When new printings of that stuff comes out, would it go to Vertigo instead of Black Label? So
I do think Nice House by the Lake, that was obviously under Black Label. That will be like when they reprint that, when they run out of the old ones.
Yes,
that's going to be a Vertigo one. Obviously, they got to sell through. You know what I mean? But maybe they'll be at Ollie's before that. But
again, you see the pictures online of people going through what's at their local Ollie's. I never check that section because my Ollie's is always a disaster area.
Ours, I've checked out. The weirdest thing I've ever seen in an Ollie's for me was a Preacher Absolute. That blew my mind. I was like, oh, $25 for an Absolute. If I didn't already have that.
Yeah. Well, follow-up time for the news is a story that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. We always kind of thumb our nose and poo-poo DC as much as we do when books are late there. But there was discussion recently that Marvel had a bunch of stuff late, and being that the books that were all late from Marvel were all stuff that was being written by Jonathan Hickman, I just assumed Jonathan Hickman is the reason the book is late. But I was corrected this past week by the artist on one of those books, the Wolverine Revenge book that Jonathan Hickman is doing alongside Greg Capullo, where Greg Capullo tweeted, and has since deleted, "Heads up, gang, FCO, the colorist, has quit the book before its completion. Deadline pressures aren't for everyone. I'm certain that we'll find a suitable replacement that will give you the highest quality product possible. Ever onward," and then a bunch of emojis.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was, he deleted the tweet. It was a little polarizing in the comic book community. He then followed it up with a tweet that said, "I've just received great news. Secured a heavy hitter to take over the coloring duties on the book. Let's roll." As well as saying, "My Sicilian grandmother scrubbed the floors until she was 76, kept a garden, immaculate house, cooked for the family, kept going strong after a stroke and knee replacement. This was my example. This is the cloth that I'm cut from. This is the woman that I greatly admired. My lovely wife is away on retreat, as I'm flubbing all over the place. Retreat for the weekend. This is the only reason I broke my own policy of never engaging on social media. I always regret it. Please talk amongst yourselves. I've got drawings to draw." And someone, so I feel as though I like Greg Capullo. I enjoy his art. He's not one of my favorites, but definitely he's someone who has shown that he's got 30 plus years staying power on one of the most sought after artists around. I feel this was bad pool on his part, bad form on his part to call out the colorist in regards to deadlines.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, also it could be because this is one of those stories that anything I say is just pure speculation.
Sure.
Because why did, deadlines are a fickle mistress kind of thing that they're saying. But now, could it be Hickman gets the book late to Capullo and then Capullo gets the book late to FCO, and FCO's up against it to color it. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't know who to blame. This seems like the old man work ethic, the kids, like, yelling at the kids kind of thing too. So I'm like, there's so many avenues that I can go down, but I don't want to say anything because I don't have all the information. But
right, I can only go by the information that I have presented to me, which is the colorist quit, and Greg Capullo said that they couldn't handle the deadline pressures.
Right.
It's the only information I got.
Yep. But but it is, and then because they had creators like defending him in that, like, all right, maybe he shouldn't have said this person quit, but like, they're off the book. I'm getting somebody new. But when you mention deadlines, and it's like, yeah, this is the life of a comic book creator. You know what I mean? Like, it's deadlines constantly and work if you want to eat, because it's not a job where, unless you're one of the truly big names, you're making a lot of money. You know what I mean? So it's like, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. That's one of the weird stories that we have in our shows, is like, everybody's right and everybody's wrong.
And and you put anything out there on social media, especially something like this, you need to be prepared to deal with whatever response you get from it, both the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
this is something that was maybe left in the drafts or the group chat or something like that.
Right.
I think it's also good to see that it's not just people in the world of professional wrestling that maybe need a social media person to handle these sort of things. Right. I'm glad that comic book people also, say things that they shouldn't say as well.
Right. When are you reopening your Twitter school, which now would be renamed X School?
No, I'd still call it Twitter School.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't want to change the thing on the outside that says X, the website, X, comma, the everything app, comma, formerly known as Twitter School.
Okay.
It's too much to fit on a marquee,
Right.
But lastly, but not leastly, another follow-up. And this is something that Todd had mentioned to me before we started recording. So I did my digging on like the only source out there that covers this, which is 13th, number 3, thdimension.com. They seem to have their finger firmly on the pulse of what's going on with the DC 1982 style guide hardcover coffee table book thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last time that we talked about this, there was an issue where it was supposed to come out, and then it just kept getting delayed. And because it's not being printed by DC, it's being printed by like an actual legitimate publishing house. There was issues with the way that the colors looked on the cover, because they were doing like that fifth ink sort of thing to make it look like funky. And the publisher themselves were not happy with the way that it looked, so they went back to the drawing board,
Mm-hmm.
But Todd had mentioned that some of the folks that were involved with this, I guess, had gotten the proofs of it.
Right, and or their comp copies. I'm not 100% sure. I've just seen it on a Facebook group of all places. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez reposted it on his Facebook. So,
of course. Standards Manual is the company that's printing it, not DC themselves, right?
Right.
So 13th Dimension has a bunch of those same pictures that Todd had mentioned, right out of the style guide, 13 different pages. And they're saying that this is proof that not only it exists, but also that it's been printed. And they kind of get into that this is something that goes all the way back to May, and the fact that the Standards Manual folks are perfectionists. That's why it's been taking as long as it has been to get out. And it has been going back and forth across the Atlantic from the Standard Manual's Brooklyn studios to Graphicom, which is the high-end printer in Italy, and then back to the United States. It's taken a lot of work to get done and so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as it stands, the fact that it's printed and the fact that it's in people's hands, they are saying that it is still slated to be released for the holiday season, quote unquote.
Right.
The vessel carrying the books will be leaving Europe the first week of November, en route to Savannah, Georgia, by the end of November. From there, Standards manual says the books will be sent out, quote, immediately.
As of right now, our retailer has the book coming out November 13th. I don't think it's going to hit that deadline. So
No.
what you have there.
Yeah. So again, just real quick, lastly, shout out to 13th Dimension. Shout out to the person who posts all these things, a gentleman by the name of Dan Greenfield. I don't know if he has any sort of social media thing or whatever it is, but he seems to be the guy who is on top of what's going on with the style guide.
And not to toot our own horn, but toot. Like, other than him and us finding this stuff, I find it wildly weird that nobody's reporting this through them, from them, because we just happen to find it because I ordered the book and we discussed it and we looked into it. But I literally go to Jose's page on Facebook and they pop up and people are like, is it out yet? What's going on with this? And anywhere I don't see any information being put out about why this is late. And it's one of the most, anticipated comic things in a long, long time. And I just find it funny that there's no one reporting on this other than 13th Dimension, you said, and us talking about 13th Dimension reporting.
Yes.
So
like I said, if this is something that you're interested in, and this is one of those things where, if you're a DC Comics person, and we talk about it here, we're DC Comics people. We've talked about this before. When you see DC comic book merchandise, and when I say see, I mean anytime in the last 40 years, and it looks like that old classic design, it's from this book.
Yep.
I think, what was it, 2 months ago, DC did a cover variant where it was it's supposed to simulate the pages out of the style guide, and those were the variant covers on the books for those months.
Right. They were literally just the pages out of the original style guide.
Yeah.
And I think that was supposed to be because that was when the book was supposed to come out. It was supposed to be Synergy.
Yeah.
Don't think that worked out well, Joe.
No, it did not. But again, Standards Manual seems to be a perfectionist house, which is a good thing, especially with an item like this, and especially with the, I said it before, the flubs that DC has had in their past with publishing hardcovers and omnibuses and absolutes and whatever it is that they publish,
Flub. I will say this.
Thank you.
As you say, I was going to do it earlier, but you didn't give me the gap. When it comes to absolutes, I don't think they've ever screwed up an absolute. That's the one thing. With those, there's something, like I say, that's the Lamborghini of collections. And I may do a journalism after this, but I don't think an absolute's ever been screwed up. Trades, hardcovers, omnibuy, yes, but not an absolute.
Interesting. When we find out more news, we'll relay that to you here, of course. So conventions this weekend. This weekend in Providence, Rhode Island is the Rhode Island Comic Con. And there's tons of folks from comics that are going to be there. Fabian Nicienza, the world-famous plotter of Deadpool. I call him the co-creator of Deadpool. Jay Lee and John Romita Jr. are going to be there.
Right.
Media guest-wise, Todd, Steve Guttenberg is going to be there. Michael Winslow is going to be there.
Ooh.
And Tim Kaczorski is going to be there.
Oh, my goodness.
It's almost as though the wheels are in motion for comic book conventions to start doing a Police Academy, reunion photo op-y sort of thing.
Right.
Okay. Now, there are tons of professional wrestlers at this thing this weekend. Todd, far too many for me, even me, to care about, right?
Right. I know your two big heroes are there, though.
I have so many.
I think it's Kane and one of the Dudley brothers, right?
Oh, Ray Deadly is going to be there?
Yeah.
I always find it interesting that Ray Deadly will be at a show, and Devon Deadly will be at a show, but they don't do the combo photo op with each other anymore.
The table's in the way?
That's curious. That must be what it is. It really must be what it is.
Right.
But you talk about a combo, you talk about a photo op, you talk about something that would be for this show, and this show is, we appreciate everyone who listens, but this show is, when it boils right down to it, it's for two people. It's for me and it's for Todd.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a photo op this weekend at this Rhode Island comic book convention. It's Mick Foley, and it's someone that he's associated with. Maybe obviously Terry Funk has passed on. He's had a history with The Rock, Sting, so many other people through his history, that he's been partnered up with or synonymous with, if you will. I mentioned Sting, and it's not Sting, and maybe The Rock is too busy trying to figure out the lie that he's going to tell for why Red Zone is going to be a failure, or Red One, or whatever the movie's called that's coming out this Christmas. But it is someone who wears face paint. That's right, Todd. At the Rhode Island Comic Book Convention, you can get a photo op with both Mick Foley and Yerple the Clown. What? You remember Yerple the Clown, don't you, Todd?
No.
When Mick Foley went to help Vince McMahon while Vince was in the hospital convalescing, and we got the debut of Mr. Sacco. And then he told Vince that he brought some entertainment with him of the female variety, if you catch what I mean.
Yes.
And it was a pleasantly purple bespecked clown doing balloon animals.
Joe, it's sad I have a memory of this. Would this turn into Austin hitting McMahon with a bedpan at some point? Okay. God, I know that, but go ahead.
And then Yerple would make another appearance during the Rock This Is Your Life skit like a year later.
Right.
And I think made one more appearance with Mick a couple years later, but there's a rare convention appearance of these two together.
I wonder what Yerple's birthday is.
If it's May 31st, we're going to have a conversation.
Oh, my goodness.
But we've been kind of straying away. I don't really look at the numbers too much to see what our international listenership is that much.
Right.
But I would be remiss not to mention that this weekend in beautiful Stockholm, Sweden, is Heroes Comic Con Winter Edition.
Right.
Adam Hughes is going to be there. Phil Jimenez is going to be there. And Ivan Hayes is going to be there.
Right, and I wish Adam Hughes good health because he missed New York Comic Con with bad COVID in the hospital.
Oh no!
Yeah, they were doing pictures of him with intravenous, and this is my view kind of a deal. He was down good for a little while. So
he has not been moved to the canceled guest category as of Monday.
No, as a matter of fact, his social media, which I kind of watch, has announced that he's not contagious or anything, and he's over it, and he's given it the what for. Of course, it's not New York. That's a different country. That's a free flight. He's in. He's all in, Joe.
But the reason I bring this up is because also being at this convention, I don't know if they're going to be there as an artist, a creator, or they're just going to be there to have fun at a comic book convention, would be my favorite comic book follow on social media, and that would be Comrade Bolsky.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Good for him.
Yes. So he, if you follow him, I highly recommend you follow him on social media. Does a lot of really good history stuff. And obviously he's a good susser out of history stuff. The most recent one that he did was in regards to a Captain America villain called Agent Axis from the Jack Kirby era.
Mm-hmm.
That may also be a DC Comics villain as well.
Oh my.
By Jack Kirby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's thorough. Like I said, one of my favorite social media follows. If you are interested in the weird aspects of comic book history, he is the person to follow. And he himself is a burgeoning creator as well. He's been putting up sketches that he's been doing lately. Again, I've interacted with him once or twice. I don't even know if he listens to the show, but I'm mentioning this. He lives in that area. He's going to that convention. I think, if you are in the Stockholm, Sweden area and you happen to bump into Comrade Bolsky, I don't even know what his shoot name is, but if you bump into him, tell him that we're big fans of his work,
Yeah, that's cool. I do like his stuff because they're different tastes for what it is, but if it's something you like, it's a deep dive.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's been ones I'm like, okay, that doesn't interest me. But he did a Guy Gardner one that was 83 tweets long, and I was like, this wasn't long enough. Joe.
Right. There you go.
But hopefully nobody gets the syndrome while they're in Stockholm. So.
So we have the links to those conventions, of course, in the show notes, along with information about the soon-to-be-named network over at soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. Anytime any of the shows in the network go live, of course, you can find them at their own individual sites. You can find them through the podcatcher of your choice, but the one-stop shop for all the shows would be soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. That includes this show, of course. That includes Longbox Heroes After Dark, Puzzle Warriors 3, Profane Arguments, Porch Talk, Wings on Wings. Again, they have one more episode left. It's going to come out. They're just waiting on like everything to line up with their hot sauce and the label and everything else like that. But in the meantime, of course, you also have Final Wrestling Place, We Need Wrestling, and At Odds with Wrestling. And anytime anyone from these shows go on any other shows and they let me know that they did, I'll be sure to share them here at soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. Be sure to check out our friends and stuff that they're up to in and around the internet. Go check out Mike Sterling's blog over at progressiveruin.com. Go check out our friend Kevin's blog over at helionsteam.com. Go check out Rick Williams' The Chop Shop at freekaratechops.storeenvy.com. Go purchase Jason Sandberg's Jupiter from his Indiegogo page. Go purchase Chris Runt's Battle Monsters from his website, fortressofcomicnews.com. Go support our good friend Davey of the band Cave People and his self-published comics over at cavedomaincomics.com. And if you do not have a comic book store in your area, or you do not have a good comic book store in your area, let our store be your store. Comics on the Green. Link the Facebook page up. Dave and the crew is going to let you know when the books are in. They're going to let you know those final order cutoff dates for the latest and greatest books that are coming out. Don't miss out on that sort of stuff. You could sign up for their mail order subscription service. Get books mailed to you weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And if you do, there's a chance you can get a sketch on the package from our good friend Becky, who we're going to turn things over to now for My Walk Down Lois Lane.
Welcome back to My Walk Down Lois Lane Halloween Spooktacular two-parter. Last week, Lois met an exotic man named Satdev, who convinced her to start making wishes on the devil, and she agreed, which resulted in her entering a marriage pact with Satan. Superman shows up with Lana. They start a magic satanic ring versus laser eye fight. Lois ended up dying after the lasers bounced off of Superman, and he turns around and blames Lana for it, even though she was just standing there. Let's see what happens in part 2. This is Lois Lane 103 from 1970. Superman is upset. Lois died and he's screaming on a mountaintop while lightning strikes him. He's trying to punish himself for losing the magic fight, but instead is just setting the forest on fire that he then has to put out. Meanwhile, Lois is laying on Satdev's altar while Lana mourns and apologizes for the years of rivalry. Superman shows up and tells Lana he's finally going to give Lois what she's wanted after all of these years, now that she's dead, and he begins to sob and say wedding vows while slipping a ring on her finger. Before Lana can suggest therapy, Superman tells her he must go on missions to forget about what he's done and flies away. Satdev, aka Satan and the devil just smushed together, appears and gives Lois the last rituals of his people, which is necromancy, and Lois wakes up. Sporting her new horns and hooves she got in the last issue, the story then spends 3 pages telling the reader and Lana what happened in issue 102, and if you guys missed it, just go back and listen to last week's segment. As Lana tries to get Lois to run away with her, Satdev's tigers attack. Lana throws the fire torches from the altar, setting everything ablaze. Lois and Satan walk through the fire to safety, while the Metropolis townsfolk witness this and begin to scream that Lois and Satdev have come to doom them all, so Satdev decides to teleport them off-world. He explains to Lois that he and his people are not actually devils, but aliens from the planet Nefrino, I think, mistaken as devils when they came to Earth thousands of years ago. His satanic-like power comes from the ring that he wears. When Lois asks if she could be turned back to normal with the ring, he tells her, "No, sorry, ring will bring down buildings and cut power and give you horns, but it won't take them away." Satdev tells her she might as well just stay on the planet because she looks like a freak now and he's in love with her and Superman's an idiot for wasting his chances. She agrees that she can't go back to Metropolis looking all devilish because the townspeople were yelling and probably gathering Bibles and holy water by now, so she agrees to marry him. The comic shows her performing the last rituals of the planet, including bathing in lava-hot water and putting on an outfit that looks like a devil costume from Spirit of Halloween. As they stand at the altar, Lois realizes she has a ring on her finger already. She pulls it off and inside is an inscription. She immediately tells Satdev that she can't marry him and asks to go home. He pretends the ring can conveniently work now, and she's turned back to normal and teleported away. The issue ends with Satdev reading the ring. Inside are the words, "I will always love you, Lois, till the end of time. Love, Superman." I hope you guys enjoyed this actually canon to the Lois Lane comics story. That's why I chose it for Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, I hope all of you have a wonderful and safe and fun Halloween. And I have a tip if you have a child under 2 and you're unsure if you should take them trick-or-treating. You should. They're super cute when they're under 2 and they look adorable dressed up, and they can't eat the candy, so technically they work for you. Tune in next week for more.
Thank you very much, Becky, to wrap up spooky season, if you will. Bit of a twist that Satdev was not the actual devil, but an alien.
Shocking. Yes. I can't believe they didn't have the shoot devil in old comics, Joe.
So they have done the shoot devil in comics, but remember when it would always be like more so of like an Archie comic or your Little Abner comics, right? Or even to your like Jerry Lewis or Don Rickles comics, the cartoon devil would show up.
Yeah.
But very rarely did things go to cartoon devil lengths in the DC universe during this time frame.
No. But it was very interesting. I wonder. Well, first of all, you have Superman marrying a dead body. And
yes.
Is that in like, because this was in continuity? Is it because until death do you part kind of a deal? It's not. They weren't married that early. Like, it doesn't count. I don't understand marrying a corpse rules in the DC universe.
And you know, with the way that the DC universe was for a period of time, I'm surprised that wasn't a more common occurrence.
That could be. Yes. And I'll say on one last note, Becky's plan to like unionize kids to go trick-or-treating for her, that's quite the opportunity right there. So.
Well, I was going to say, I know someone that you may or may not have done a helmet ranking podcast with.
Oh, okay.
That did that opportunity with their child for the first 3 years of their life, and may still be running a version of it to this very day.
Fantastic.
So again, thank you as always, Becky. And as we just wrap this up here, I think this like marks like a full year that Becky's been doing this.
I believe so, because I think we had the one episode where we did the recap because you were on vacation. But this is like a full year pretty much of, Becky being on the show. Salute to Becky. Like, exactly. You get your 1 year chip.
Remember the X-Men Minute or the Mutant Minute, whatever that was?
Yeah, this is far better. Sorry.
For sure. So, Todd, let's get into what we read from this past week. Where would you like to begin?
I'm going to start with the book I was looking forward to most, which was Nightwing 119, the first issue after Bruno Redondo's and Tom Taylor's departure, written by Dan Waters and art by Dexter Soy. Basically, we get introduced to this new character who's kind of narrating things, where he's like this creepy clown. So like there's like a circus motif with that. But we end up finding out that in Bloodhaven, since like Blockbuster's kind of gone away, and Heartless and everything, that all the second tier gang members are rising up, and there's like the Clean Cut crew and the Teddies and the Flyboys and the Blockbuster gang. And they're like these kind of nobodies, but they're like, oh, we're going to fill that void. And then something happens that kind of takes out their leaders, and Nightwing has to investigate. And while he's investigating, he finds out that his sister, who's the mayor, is getting involved with this kind of weapons dealer. So they're kind of like militarizing the police force. And of course, Dick wants nothing to do with that. But it's also, election season, so she has to keep her points up. So Nightwing goes out to investigate who ended up attacking the gang leaders, and he ends up kind of, investigating stuff, but he does a weird kind of truce. I like the way he kind of, like the plan that he does, that he knows Batman wouldn't agree with, that he's going to put this plan into effect, and everybody kind of stays their way, but they can kind of run business. And then he goes to investigate it, and maybe it leads to people that have shown up in this comic, maybe the weapons dealer, and we'll go from there. I thought it was a solid first issue. I thought it was interesting, like the characters they brought in. There was some interesting dialogue with like Nightwing talking about like this is my plan, because usually Batman's plan is just punching things in the face, and I do things a little differently. Definitely a good starting issue, and obviously with the all-in things, they're easy access, and that was what this was. I look forward more of the stuff and finding out who that creepy clown is, because he's very terrifying, not a terrifier. But what did you think, Joe?
I thought it was good. Mm-hmm. It's quick and easy. Obviously, they had big shoes to fill after the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo run on this book, and you can go one of many ways. You could try to outdo them. You could say, well, it doesn't really matter what I'm going to do, so I'm going to shoot as low as possible. Or you could just put out something of like, that's back to basics sort of thing. And that's what this issue kind of felt like, a back to basics sort of thing. And like I said, it was good. Tough act to follow. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And you had mentioned before about the weapons dealer and the people at the end of the book. It feels as though they're tied, but it also feels as though that's like too easy of a out for this story this early in the story.
Right. There's more to meets the eye.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's a red herring, but we shall certainly see. And, I like Nightwing, and it wasn't terrible. Mm-hmm. So I'm with it for another month at least.
Right.
The other book that we had mentioned from last week, the one that I was most looking forward to coming out this week, was Detective Comics 1090 by the aforementioned Tom Taylor. He moved from Nightwing to this, with art by Mikel Janine, who is a fantastic artist. And this is an issue that has some flashbacky stuff in it. A lot of stuff in regards to the final days of Thomas Wayne, specifically. Mm-hmm. And there's a majority of the story is that Hippocratic oath and, saving someone no matter how bad of a person they may or may not be. But also a situation comes in where there's a car accident, there's a mother, there's a person, another person, and the mother is with child. They assist the woman to give birth, and the mother is like, you need to get rid of this child. We can't let the father know that it survived and that I survived because he's this bad of a person. And Thomas Wayne was in a situation where he could have let the other person die on the operating table. And he decides not to because, again, do no harm, Hippocratic oath, the whole thing. So the man survives, the woman survives, the baby survives. The woman and the baby are put into one of the women's shelter homes that Martha Wayne is part of doing as part of her philanthropy as being a billionaire in Gotham City. And then we flash forward, and like this is going on through the book, we're flashing back to this. And then there's a new woman in the world. Again, feels very similar to what's going on in the Nightwing, but like 6 of one, half a dozen the other. And that there's this new woman that's introduced, and she's out killing young gang members, or there's a new criminal killing gang members viciously. And then there's a new woman on the Bruce Wayne side. That's like a philanthropist sort of person as well. We're not told that it's the baby from the flashback story, but we're given enough pieces that it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, those things kind of line up a little bit. But then we get the twist at the end, right? I'm not going to spoil the twist.
That twist kicked me in the chest, though. I'll say that.
It certainly did. And it's one of those things, and I'm going to tiptoe around it like I always say, but it's one of those things where if you really want to play with that in the Batman universe to tie those sort of things together much more closely than they were before, you really better be ready with a good story.
Yes, that could have been very heavy-handed and just forced.
You could upset a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But that all being said, I liked it. I thought it was a really good issue. If I'm comparing the two books, I like this better than I like Nightwing.
That being said, yes, this was I actually thought this was amazing. I liked it all around. First of all, I'm one of those people who does not like and I've said this about certain movies and trends, like the Batman with the Twilight actor, and then later like the Joker movie, the first Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, the dirtying up of the Waynes. This does none of that. It's like the Waynes are good, and that's what I love. The Waynes are were the last hope for Gotham City, and when they fell, Gotham falls. You know, so I'm fine with that, and I like how they all act. And Thomas is like, I can't. This person that that comes in may be a bad dude, but I got to save his life. So I'm like, I'm down with all of that. But the most interesting thing is, to me, the bit with like he's chasing somebody who's gotten away, and we're discussing like how his body's beaten up. Batman's like, yeah, like I got bad knees, I got this, I got that, I've had all these injuries. And this young lady that's new in Bruce's life brings him in and like basically offers him a chance at this new thing that she has that's like a rejuvenation thing. And it leads me to like him trying Venom back in the day and being like, that's addictive. And he goes down the list. Should I try it? If it's legit, what could I become as an older person with the abilities of a young man? And I'm like, oh my God, I love all this because it seems like it's too good to be true, but what if it is? I don't know. Just like there are 17 things going on in this book that I'm all interested in. So I really love the first issue of Tom Taylor's run of Detective. And we get a cameo of Alfred with Batman as a kid, and Bruce as a kid. And I'll say this, nobody in the industry writes Alfred better than Tom Taylor. Even when he shows up for 8 panels, I'm like, I love Tom Taylor's Alfred. So, good book.
This is a good book.
Yep.
So the other book that I want to talk about would be Absolute Wonder Woman #1 that came out this past week.
Right.
That was written by Kelly Thompson with art by Hayden Sherman. Hayden Sherman, I'm unfamiliar with their art.
Me too.
But I enjoyed this very much. So obviously this is the other side, that dark coin, the world or the universe where our big 3 are kicking things off, and there's more and more books that are going to be coming out here in the future in regards to all of this. We got our Batman one, we got our Wonder Woman one, we got Superman next week. So this book is kind of book-ended at the beginning and the end by essentially Wonder Woman's first appearance, saving the people of Gateway City from an invasion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the bulk of this is Wonder Woman's origin. And it's the new origin of Wonder Woman and how it involves hell, and it involves the Amazons, and it involves so much about what this world is going to be. And I love this book.
Okay.
I thought this was amazing. The stuff with, and again, do they say the name of the woman who's raising Wonder Woman in this?
I don't think they do, but it leads me to believe that she's a version of Hippolyta. You know what I mean?
Right. Again, they don't say it, but that's very much who it is. And we get to see, and again, Apollo deliver the child. the banning of the word Amazon, and I like how they do it in the bit where she tries to say it, and they just like, it's almost like it's scribbled out in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good like lettering bit, you know?
Right.
But then when we're just going to assume that it's Hippolyta and sees young Wonder Woman grow and the kinship that she has and the powers that she has and the abilities that she has and the introspection that she has, and she gets that little bit of extraness of being an Amazon and not realizing that she's an Amazon, and Hippolyta teaching her magic, right? Mm-hmm. Which is going to accentuate who and what she is and can do. And then you have that bit where Wonder Woman, Diana, if you will, finally builds up the courage to say the word Amazon aloud for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I just felt that that was such a powerful moment to get over what this book is going to be and what these absolute books could be. And the fact that it was a beautiful looking book in the first place anyway helps it so much. I was kind of on board to give these books a try. And if I was to choose the one that I had I don't want to say the least interest in, but definitely if I was going to rank the first three, this would be the third. Mm-hmm. And I will say, I love Jason Aaron. I love Superman. After this, they got a tough act to follow.
Okay. I don't think I loved it as much as you. I really like this book. Of the two, I like Detective more. You know what I mean?
Batman. Like, that we read this week, Detective. Okay.
Yes, Detective. That's what I'm saying. But of the two of Batman and this, they're about equal on my level. But I'll say this. What I loved about the art, and then there's a couple other things I loved. I loved when they drew the house or whatever they live in, cave, whatever you want to call it, their domain. It was always a 2-page spread. And they would do things on one side of the book and then like the other, like to just give you the spread out of the room. And sometimes it was on the left, sometimes it was on the right, people talking, but there was always something to look at in any of those pages, and I really liked it. But the thing that I loved the most about this, and there was a lot of good things like the reveal of her saying Amazon the first time, but it was Diana as a child. Like, no matter what was happening, like the mother was like, oh, it's only a matter of time before this place kills her. And then like the snake shows up and she's all like being a cute baby. And they actually use the word yeet as a sound effect, which I like. But there's another time like a little dragon shows up and it kind of like burns her. And then the baby's like, no, like bad, kind of a no. And Diana like scolds it, but then she kisses the animal and it kind of wanders off happy. And then there's a bit later like where she's playing with the creatures and they're all like she's dancing with them and everything. And I'm like, I'm not a kid person, but this was like the cutest thing I've seen in a long, long time. And whatever they're doing, like, cause she does the blood thing on her eyes to give her like the warrior look and everything. I'm like, still at heart, Diana's about love. Do you know what I mean? Like yep. they hammer that home, even though she shows up and saves, whatever town she's in front of, just like comes and shows no mercy to these creatures. But that's because they're evil. But like I said, to me, Diana is first and foremost built on love, and at least that's in this book. So yeah, I liked it. I do think it's on par with Batman, absolute, but I did like Detective a little bit more. But that being said, it was like you said, the one I had the least amount of interest in, but it's on. I'm very interested now, if that makes any sense. So I will keep going on Absolute Wonder Woman.
Cool. So we read a bunch this past week. Let's get into what we're looking forward to coming out this week. If you head over to longboxheroes.com every Tuesday around noon Eastern time, we put up the poll post, which is a link to all the books that are coming out this week. Whether you get your books in print, whether you get them digitally, whether you get them sent to your home, be forewarned, be forearmed, know what's coming out this week. Todd and I attempt to guess what the other is most looking forward to coming out this week. We are currently tied, 34 correct guesses apiece. We got 2 months left in the year. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And this is a very weird week. Wasn't Saga supposed to be out this week?
Saga got bumped a week, yes.
That's what I thought. So this was going to be the layup week. and it makes it a little harder. But I'm looking over your list. Is the book you're looking forward to most Nice House by the Sea #4? I have no idea this week.
It is not.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you in a second. Is the book you're most looking forward to coming out this week Poison Ivy, Swamp Thing, Feral Trees?
It is.
Okay.
I just thought I'd try it, even though it's a $5.99 book, so we'll see.
Right. G. Willow Wilson's writing it. It's a Swamp Thing. It was the only #1 on your list. That was the shot in the dark that I would have told you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we line up on most everything on this, right?
Right.
If I was to tell you one of the round numbers on this was not an anniversary issue, but a creative team change book.
Is this the Joe Kelly Amazing Spider-Man?
So this is the last Zeb Wells issue with the Joe Kelly back up to start his new story arc. Yes.
Okay.
So Amazing Spider-Man 60, which is actually like 953 or 4, whatever it is in the grand scheme of things, because of course, Marvel is one of the few. Well, Marvel is with Amazing Spider-Man. They double dip you on anniversary issues.
Don't get me started.
For both the current numbering and the anniversary legacy numbering as well.
Right.
But I've been reading Amazing Spider-Man for the most part since 1980 something. We looked at it a couple months ago that the J. Michael Straczynski run was about a year and a half where I wasn't getting the book. I was that upset with what he was doing to my Spider-Man. And it's a gap that'll never be filled in that run. I've enjoyed Zeb Wells' more recent stuff. I love Joe Kelly. He's one of my favorite writers. Obviously has not been as prolific these days as he was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he's been on Amazing Spider-Man before. I'm very excited to see what he does with this next run here for Amazing Spider-Man. So this is my book for the week.
Fantastic.
So I got to add this Poison Ivy thing for the notes. I got to.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to say it was a low key week, but it's a lot. I mean, obviously, they're all books that we like, but none of them were in there books that we love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things where this is a 5th week month,
right?
So things kind of get pushed aside, if you will, and it ends up being, I hate to say, a little bit of a dumping ground, but I just did, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Though I would say a Captain America interests me because we're out of that whatever, but the backdoor storyline. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So while you're over at longboxheroes.com, be sure to check out past episodes of this show, past episodes of Longbox Heroes After Dark, and the current ongoing Todd and Joe Have Issues, as we are still rereading all of Gail Simone's Secret Six from the very beginning. We do have a crossover, I think, coming up here shortly with the Doom Patrol issue, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But this week, we're talking about issue 26, written by the aforementioned Gail Simone, art by Jim Calafiore. And this is the story arc where it's pitting the two different teams of the Six against each other. The team led by Bane and the team led by Scandal. And we get the B plot, I guess you will call it that, of Spy Smasher and Amanda Waller meeting up.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to be going on with those two characters there in regards to a nuclear strike happening on American soil in the next 2 weeks. And the plan is for neither side to do anything about it, while the Six are kind of preoccupied with this battle against each other in the DC Universe version of the Savage Land. Mm-hmm. At this point, it definitely feels like it's to keep them occupied and keep them out of everyone's hair. They don't know that this nuke is going to get dropped. What they do know is the winner of this battle is going to get their slate wiped completely clean. Their records are going to be expunged. Mm-hmm. And this entire issue is built up around how deadly of a force Bane is, just to make those last 2 pages that much more impactful.
Right.
Let's get into it.
I'll say this about the Amanda Waller stuff first, because that just happens in the kind of, as a side story, like you said, and then we get to the main thing. But there's a bit with the art by Calafiore where someone is walking a dog. There's just a shadow, and they have the poop bag.
Yes.
And I was completely fixated on that while they were talking, but I was still engrossed in the story. So I like that. But this is the Amanda Waller that I miss, where, yes, she bumps up against the line, but in her heart of hearts, she's for the best of, like, the country. Where now, like in the last story of Absolute Power, is like she way overstepped the line, and she's straight up the villain of the story. Mm-hmm. So I always like this Amanda Waller way more. One that would, make some dirty choices, but still wasn't evil, if that makes any sense. I wish they bring this Amanda Waller back.
She was definitely more of a Shades of Grey character, whereas you mentioned these days. Do you think it's from her portrayal in the DC animated stuff, the DC cinematic stuff, that has kind of pushed her to be more of a capital E evil character?
I think, if I had anything to say, I have no, proof of this. I think it was a mandate from DC that, this could be a good villain. You know what I mean? Like a straight up, government villain that overstepped, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it was. Or I don't know, but I don't see her ever going back now, if that makes any sense.
It's again, once you go this far with a character, it's tough to bring them back.
Right. It can be done. See Hal Jordan.
So what is the thing that is possessing Amanda Waller?
I don't know. We could write something up. We could, that it was one of the magic people got into her head. I could write I couldn't, but I could come up with a million ideas with the help of a real writer for why she was not in her own mind. You know what I mean?
Right. Last week or the week before, we had kind of jokingly talked about I could write this character this way and I could write that character that way. I don't think I could write a halfway decent Amanda Waller story.
I couldn't, but my immediate go-to was, because I kind of know what she was doing before Absolute Power, was she was on the crime syndicate Earths hiding. So that's where the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good. And they established that if you stayed on an Earth too long, you needed someone to keep your because that's how you would go from Earth to Earth, the vibrations, the Flash could do it, that it would mess you up. And I would just write it that she was on Earth 3 too long. And it scrambled her brain. Now she's back to Earth. She returns back. And you give it enough time and everybody would forget that they did it. Because look how many times heroes turn bad and villains turn good. I mean, just look at Harley Quinn. I always say as Harley Quinn, everybody loves her as the tweener man. But I was like, how many times did she murder somebody with the Joker? And Batman just works with her now. You know what I mean? So you can forgive anything.
That's true. Secret Six, though.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
So we get who is their guide person? Tremor is her name, maybe?
Right. Her code name is Tremor. I forget what her real name was.
Right. And, obviously she's, it's a new character. I like her interactions with Scandal and Deadshot, and especially Catman, and Deadshot noticing her interactions with Catman and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But then we get the big fight, between the two six squads, if you will. And, the way that Scandals seems to be, as much as a ragtag group as they are, they seem to have better planning, better strategy than Bane's group do, even though Bane's group has a lot more brute force and raw power. But they spend, the last 20-some issues, this issue in particular, building up Bane. And then when it comes down to Bane versus Scandal, he's not fighting back. And then he just does the clean job to her, the wrestling vernacular to her.
Jeez.
To the shock of Scandal herself. He essentially takes her hand with the blade on it and just drives it into his own neck to give her team the victory. Seemingly so. Definitely feels as though Bane comes into town as this conquering, whatever you want to call him, and puts the fear of Bane into all of the people that are there. And if Scandal's the one that takes him down, that fear now through the transitive property of fear goes over to her.
Mm-hmm.
But we shall see next week when we read the next issue.
Right. I will say the two things that I do love is when they finally, the Catman team decides to go to, I think it's Skataris is the name of it. It's where Warlord is from, the Mike Grell story, or where he went to. And they go in, and Deadshot's like, well, I'll be dipped in dog excrement. And Ragdoll's like, that's an interesting turn of phrase, Mr. Lawton, one time. And he's like, just stop right there, Merkel. This one time, don't say nothing awful. Just let us have a minute here. Because it's like the Jurassic Park moment. You know what I mean? Like when he turns the Laura Dern's head to see the thing. It's like they're just aghast by everything. And the other thing I like is the King Shark has maybe the best line in all of it. When he susses out that Catman's team is there, he's like, do you guys smell pervert? I want that on a shirt. Like King Shark saying, do you smell pervert is a shirt that would sell gangbusters. So...
Again, just a King's, and again, I know they put King Shark in the aforementioned Harley Quinn animated thing that was on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
I would wonder if that is a line that filtered in through to the show.
No, not that I saw, because I'm all caught up on that.
Okay, I'm shocked that it hasn't. And if there was a place for that to be merchandised, it's there.
Mm-hmm. Though in the show, all the characters that kind of run with Harley Quinn are just goofed up versions of, you know what I mean? Like they're not very serious takes on any of the characters. So he's fun. He's kind of a naive little thing, but I do like King Shark because did you know he's a shark? He's a shark. He's a certain kind of shark.
Do you think this portrayal in Secret Six is a very serious portrayal of King Shark?
Not serious, but like if you watch Harley Quinn, he's a guy like King Shark wants to be a father and have kids, and he's very like when I say goofy, he's like naive goofy, like a guy you would actually want to hang around, if that makes any sense. He's just a really nice guy. That's not King Shark in Secret Six.
Okay, I getcha. One day, we're watching more stuff. Maybe I'll watch that Harley Quinn show if it gets your seal of approval. If it gets the Todd nod, if you will. It
does. It takes you a hot minute to like figure out, because you're going to go in like, let's just say Clayface shows up. And like, I have my idea of what Clayface is. Once you figure out what they're doing with that, Clayface is one of my favorite characters in the show. But it takes you a minute to go, this isn't the DC proper, if that makes any sense. And then finally it leads into a Kite Man TV show. So...
So if I guess I would compare it to anything, it's an R-rated Teen Titans Go.
That's a good analogy if I ever watched Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go is essentially rejected scripts for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but for babies.
That could... Okay, well imagine if they just took It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and just went further with it.
Oh, okay.
So, there you go. But with DC characters. So
okay. So yeah, next week will be issue 27, and I'll double check to see where the Doom Patrol issue is. And like I said, we'll let you know probably around the first or second week. We'll let you know by the end of December what we're doing for 2025. Patreon people will find out beforehand.
Right.
We got the Pigskin Pick'em standings. Don't forget to do your picks.
Right.
Todd sends out a reminder when he needs a reminder for his reminder.
Yeah. I wish I could set a tweet to go out on its own, but that's neither here nor there.
After this past week, I've fallen to 40th place, and Todd is currently in a 10-way tie for 14th place.
Right, 10-way tie, my favorite. Just where I want everybody to make my surge.
Exactly. The group is locked. You can't get back in if you didn't sign up at the beginning of the season, but don't forget to do your picks. Todd's Art Attack returned this week. We've spoken into existence to bring it back, and it came back.
Right, from a Mang Matt, aka the Mad Bassist. My package from Comics on the Green contained the usual sketch and joke from Becky, but since I'd ordered some books for my 4-year-old and a certain definitive Colonel Sanders artist happened to be there, we got an extra special edition from Tom Durenick for the Art Attack. And Tom Durenick's like, I do like the big-headed Spider-Man saying hi to Matt's son Will, and then Becky put in the, what do you call two married spiders? Newlywebs, Joe. Look at that. And of the two sketches, Becky's is better. I'm just saying.
I disagree wholeheartedly. That's not a knock on Becky, but Tom is a professional and Spider-Man is my favorite. So,
well, that's a Spider-Man on the other side and his Spider-Wife.
Yeah. I'm very jealous of Will for having that. Hopefully Will knows what he got sent to him in the mail.
I just wonder if Mephisto's going to break up the Spider marriage over here, Joe.
No, don't say that. Come on now.
And then fast-growing Spider Ninjas show up. That'd be great. Oh.
No, it wouldn't. That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you have art that you've done yourself, or you recently went to a comic book convention and purchased some, had some commissioned, purchased a page, just tag Todd's Art Attack on social media, and we'll be sure to share your cool art with all of our listenership and so forth. Mm-hmm. You want to support the show, of course, head over to our store. You can get shirts and pins and stickers with our fancy logo on them. You can make any and all of your eBay purchases through our eBay affiliate link. This page contains affiliate links for eBay. We may receive a small commission on purchases you make. You could use the affiliate link anytime you want to buy anything on eBay and support the show at the same time.
Yeah.
But the best and greatest way to support the show is by signing up for the Patreon, patreon.com/longboxheroes. For as little as $1 a month, you're going to get these following things. You're going to get 2 bonus shows every month from Todd and myself. Comic Book Oddities, where we look at some of the stranger, weirder, maybe rightfully forgotten attempts to bring comic books to the silver screen or the small screen. We just are fresh off doing Time Cop, Jean-Claude Van Damme's highest grossing movie, with our good buddy Adam from At Odds with Wrestling and Porch Talk. This month for November, we're going to be taking on the 1984 Helen Slater classic Supergirl. And in December, we're going to be doing the theatrical release of Kraven. And if the movie gods are correct, and we get a Sinister Six of these Sony Spider-Man villain characters, there was a lot of big claims being made in the Discord, which you could also get access to the soon-to-be-named network Discord at that $1 level as well.
Right.
You can also get the other bonus show that we do, which is Previewing the Past, where we look at 30 years ago this month's previews catalog. 95 is a sliver left. 96 is full and in the bag. 97 is going to be wrapped up here shortly. And then if I have my druthers, 98 and 99 might be done by the end of this year.
Oh, my God.
My goodness. We shall see, though. Baby steps. Got to get that sliver. First. But $5. So you're also going to get, like I said, those 2 bonus shows. You're going to get access to the soon-to-be-named network Discord channel. You're going to get the full scans of those preview catalogs that we talk about over on Previewing the Past. High quality, expertly done scans of those previews catalogs. $5 a month is going to give you those bonus shows 2 weeks before everyone else, and it's going to get you access to Longbox Heroes After Dark 2 days before everyone else, so you can listen to the shows in the correct listening order. And of course, if you're, obviously there's an audio podcast, even if you sign up for free to the Patreon, you're going to get both shows, this show, Longbox Heroes After Dark, and if you sign up at any of the paid levels, you're going to get the bonus shows on one RSS feed, if that's the sort of thing that you like. You don't having I listen to Longbox Heroes, I listen to Longbox Heroes After Dark, I listen to the Patreon show, I have a different RSS feed for each of those. A lot of times the main show comes out a little bit earlier on the Patreon thing. It's free. Look into it. Go check out the site, look at some of the stuff that we've done, look through our entire back catalog of all the different movies that we've done there, right?
Right. And if you're joining up Patreon, don't use the Apple app, right?
Right. So if you're a new subscriber, we're approaching the beginning of the month. November 1st is when the change of the pricing goes through for Apple. New subscribers to any Patreon, if you do it through the Patreon app on your Apple device, they charge you more money for it. Or they take more money away from the creator that you're supporting. If you're already an existing Patreon person, this does not affect you. If you're a new person that signs up, don't do it through your Apple device. Go to a web browser. Don't type in Longbox Heroes Patreon, hit enter, and then click the link that shows up there. Patreon.com/Longbox Heroes, the normal way that you type in a URL. Do it that way. Sign up that way. You don't see, and that actually goes for, obviously that's something that's going on with Patreon November 1st, but it's something that goes on with a lot of things that have an app and have a web-based functionality as well. If you are making your transactions through the app, and that doesn't matter if it's an Apple device, an Android device, or whatever, typically if you're doing those transactions through the app itself and there's a web app application for it, the person that you're supporting will see more money if you do it through the web-based versus the app.
Okay.
Just a rule of thumb. If you're supporting a lot of different people through a lot of different creator type things, I'll say, the example that's always given is like Cameo, right? Mm-hmm. If you buy a Cameo through the app, whatever, phone service, whatever, takes more money away. If you just go to cameo.com and look up your favorite person and do it that way, the creator, the person that you're supporting, will see more of that money.
Okay.
That's all. We're learning you here, right?
Schooling.
And I think the only other things that we have to discuss at this point would be the 2 TV shows, right?
Yes.
Now, before we dive into the 2 TV shows, and that would be Agatha latest episode and Penguin latest episode, Todd, I got no notes for these episodes, either one.
Oh my God.
Nothing. I've been watching Agatha with my wife. We've been enjoying watching that. We'll get into that. And then, of course, we'll get into a little bit more with Penguin, as this was one of those things where my wife and I had some time. I said, hey, I need to watch this episode of Penguin. I think you'll be able to follow along without having seen the previous 5 episodes. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that when we get into that. But let's start with Agatha.
Okay.
So a lot of this episode of Agatha... Well, you know what? Yeah, let me take point on this. Mm-hmm. Because I think you'll want to talk more about Penguin, since that's, your thing. So this is primarily a Lilia episode, right? Mm-hmm. Lilia is the older witch that's in the coven, played by Patti LuPone. She's the one who was doing the tarot card opportunity, and she was the one throughout the course of the show. We had been seeing her reacting strangely or having conversations that didn't make sense. This is the episode where they fix all that. Not so much as fix all that, but more so explain why that was going on. Mm-hmm. And it was the way that she was living her life in flashback all the way back to her as a child first discovering her witchy powers. Because the trial that Agatha specifically and Billy had to do involved tarot cards and involved a time frame of both swords falling from the ceiling, but also the remaining swords that were left in the ceiling coming down to crush everyone.
Right.
We also learn a little bit more about Rio, Aubrey Plaza's character, and we are losing witches, as this is going on and on and on. And I have a feeling that things are going to come down to just Agatha and Billy, but we'll figure that out when we get there. You had mentioned at the beginning of the show that this was very Doctor Who-esque, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed this quite a bit. If this was your first episode of the show, you were probably going to be very lost. If you have been following along since the very beginning, I think this is like a reward episode for you.
This is my favorite episode of the run.
Yeah.
And Lila, I was like, not that I didn't like care about the character, but it was all like whatever. But this was like a tour de force for her and doing the living her life out of order, but she was okay until she like started remembering her powers and everything like that. But like I said, it was very Doctor Who in the fact that told out of order, and I like that starts out she's like falling and how that equates to what's at the end. And we're getting bits of her story, told out of order, as I say. But then there's this moment when they solve the riddle or whatever it is, the trial, if you will. And she's like, okay, go. And the Salem 7 show up. And I got goosebumps from it because the music rises. It's like since like Doctor Who came over to Disney. I talked with Adam about this. Like it's just what the Doctor would do. He's like, you go, I'm going to do this. And the music rises and she gives this speech and she flips the card and it turns it upside down and she sacrifices herself. I was like, I love all of this. And then the life that she curses, the last scene is her sitting down happily for her first, as a child, like centuries ago, to get her first teachings. And I'm like, this was just so good, It's everything that I loved about this. And then on top of that, we get I don't know if you mentioned it because we were jumping around with Rio is actually death now. They acknowledge that, which is funny because we've had Hela and Thanos was never involved with death, but now we have the personification of death. And does that open a lot of doors for people coming back now? Maybe, who knows?
Yes. I agree.
So, but interesting episode. So on to the Penguin.
Yeah.
So the Penguin, is trying to build up his, mushroom bliss drug out on the streets because now he's finally kind of sort of got the underground thing going and he has his cronies with him. But, there's power outages in Crown Point and all of this stuff. So he's trying to work all that out. And he's kind of doing deals with these like second and third tier gang members, not the Falcones or the Maronis, which the Falcones are now the Gigantes. And he's okay. So now Sophia and the head of the Marone family decide to wipe that out at the knees and attack anybody who's running Bliss for him. So Penguin has this idea to run Bliss right into the streets for free. It's going to show the second tier gangs how important it is because they all hate him now because the big gangs are coming for him. And like while this is going on, Penguin is having this like running thing with his mother that his mother's starting to slip. And Vic is helping her with them. And I do like when Penguin argues with the mother because she thinks he's her ex-husband or like her husband, Penguin's father. And Penguin is just like very, just matter of the fact with her, where Vic's like, oh, the power's out. Your other son has gone down to the power company and do it. And it's making her happy. But he's yelling at Vic like, you have no right to talk about my brothers. So like, I feel like still there's something weird there that we're going to get the bit. But the mother even says like, I'm slipping. If the time comes, kill me. Like, I do not want to be the old person that's the burden. And the Penguin kind of says like, okay, begrudgingly says I'll do it. But I don't think he's going to have to do it. We'll get to that later. While this is going on, Vic is running, around town, and he runs back into Squid, who was the young punk who wants in. And he ends up even telling Penguin, like, I got a problem. And he's like, well, handle it kind of a deal. And he's like, well, all right, I will. And he goes back to Squid, tries to pay him off. Squid wants none of it. And he's like throwing the money. And literally in a Chekhov's gun moment, because they show that Vic has the gun in his belt early in the thing, he's going to, like, I'll take you to where we're at. And then he just turns around and shoots him in the neck. And like, oh, so like that's your moment of like Vic is on the other side now. You know what I mean?
I'll interject here, right?
Yep.
As soon as Squid or Squib or whatever his name was, right? So as I mentioned, I watched this with my wife. She had not watched any of the previous stuff. Typically, they'll do like a short recap at the beginning of the episodes.
Right.
They did not do a recap at the beginning of this episode. They just drop you right in. But I think this episode was the best. Like, if you want to just jump in the middle, like, this episode tells you everything you need to know.
Right.
And it doesn't feel overwhelming. There may have been one or two times where I needed to pause and just be like, okay, this is why those names are this.
Mm-hmm.
But when Squid shows up and he says that he knows, I thought it was going to be Squid was going to be the one that narcs off that Penguin's mom is in Crown Point, Crown Heights, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the interaction with Vic, and Vic talks to the Penguin. He says, I got a problem. And the whole time, I don't want to say it because it was just me and my wife, might have been yelling at the TV, just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that bit where Vic tried to go the high road, and he gives him the money, right? And he goes, I'll give you more next week. And Squid's throwing the money. He's like, oh, the money's just disappearing.
Oh, such a dirtbag.
And the whole time he's doing that, I'm like, shoot him now. I'm yelling at the TV, shoot him now. And when Vic finally shoots him, I cheered, Todd. And I said, pick up the money and get out of there. But as you mentioned, Vic is now on the other side. He gets that moment later on with Penguin where, like, words don't need to be spoken, really.
Mm-hmm.
But Penguin knows what Vic did. And for the first time in all of this, Penguin hugs him.
Mm-hmm.
And
says it gets easier.
It gets easier.
Oh.
Todd.
Right, but that being said, he gives him the advice. He's like, lose the clothes.
Yeah.
But I don't think anything's going to become of it, but throw those sneakers away too, boy.
Yep. And there was
anything that has DNA on it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
But that being said, Vic is on the other side. But when he apologizes to Squid as he's bleeding out, oh my God. Like, I don't know whether to feel bad for Vic or not, because he just shot a guy, but he's not a good guy. You know what I mean? But,
yep.
Oh, just all around. So while the mother has been complaining about the power, I do like that Oz goes and confronts the councilman with his pair of pliers. And in a great bit, he does a great line that I can't do here with the giant invisible something.
Yes.
That cracked me up. And then he's like, I can't turn the power in Crown Point off. I have to give it to the rich people. And he puts the pliers in his nose and squeezes. And he's like, you're going to do it. And he's like, yes, yes. And a bit that is perfect Penguin, he's like, oh, you're all right. All right. You're just bleeding. Let me see your tie. And you think he's going to dab the nose, but he wipes the pliers. I was crying, right? So then the guy's like, all right, I'm going to go. He's like, yeah, don't forget to turn that power on. And the guy gets in the car and he starts backing out real slow. And he's like, you got lots of room. You got more room than you think you got. The Penguin's helping him back out.
Yeah.
I was absolutely crying, right?
That was another scene. That might have been another scene where I was cheering.
Mm-hmm. So this leads to... things are going on. We're now Sophia and the head of the Maroney family, the Kurgan Maroney. They're like talking about what they can do, and I like that they're like he's cooking for, and they're having like this great discussion about everything, about how like the Falcones and the Maroneys were different because the Maroneys actually watch out for each other. And the Falcones didn't, and that's why they're the Gigantes today. So they go back to like Penguin's apartment to look for anything that he loves, because they've taken something away from each of them that they love. And I like when they go to the place, and it's a callback to one of the earlier episodes when Sophia was in his apartment with the fireplace that lights up with the cheesy music.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know. And he's like, And he's like, well, what about the family? And like the brothers, like they're dead and the mother's dead. Oh, we don't have to worry about the mother anymore. So she's scot-free, clean. So he's like, you do it. And like, he wrecked the apartment. And she goes and she finds the picture of Eve, who was the lady of the evening, who was helping him sell bliss and everything.
Well, he finds she has a drawer at the place,
right. Finds the undies.
Yeah.
So like she realizes this, like if a lady has a drawer at somebody's place, they're a little more than, something. So she finds the picture and she goes out on her own to look for her. And I love the fact that she talks to all her workers, if you will, and none of them will rat her out. Then she sees this one girl and she's like, I know where she's at if the price is right. And like, oh man, this one's ratting her out, kind of a deal. And then she goes upstairs, finds Eve, and in another Sophia like tour de force, having the conversation with Eve where she's like, come on in. And you find out that Eve paid that one lady to rat her out so she wouldn't like end up hurting anybody, or like she would just come to her. And they have the conversation and she's like, all your people, they watched out for you, unlike me, for me. And Eve goes like, I don't know what you want. You're the hangman and blah, blah, blah. Just don't hurt any of my people. She's like, you really think I'm the hangman? And she's like, yeah. He goes, but Oz would never tell me anything. So like, do what you're going to do. And they end up having the conversation. She goes, well, I'll tell you this about your beloved Oz. It was my father who killed all those people, and he worked for him, and he helped cover it up, blah, blah, blah. Now, in this, I want to ask your opinion, because do we ever have any proof that he knows that it was the father?
So, okay. There's a conversation.
I mean? He knows that it wasn't her.
So, this is a conversation that I had with my wife afterwards in regards to this, because obviously you need to know that it was the 10 years ago. And Penguin was just the lowly driver for Sophia, who was like, low person on the Falcone, totem pole, right?
Kind of a naive daughter at the time.
Okay. And I say it every week that we talk about the Penguin. Is the Penguin stupid, or is he making everyone think he's stupid? Mm-hmm. Because if you remember, listen to the show, you have the reporters. They go and they're looking to get something, and, the big boss, her father, Falcone, is like, don't talk to the press. Press get her cornered. She talks to the press. We don't know what's said. And the Penguin, like, goes to the dad, is like, you told her not to talk to the press. She's talking to the press. Mm-hmm. Now, did the Penguin do this because he knows, well, it's going to get me in good with the old man, and I know that he's the killer, and he's going to frame, and because I'm so close, he's going to keep me in on it? Or was he just so short-sighted that my job is to protect her, my job is also to do what his dad says. Mm-hmm. Dad says, keep her away from the press, and if he finds out from somebody else that she went to the press, it's going to be me that's hanging. So it's such a thing that I don't know that Penguin knew that the boss Falcone was the hangman. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he was like involved in the planning to set up Sophia. He was just a dope who said like, well, she's not supposed to be talking to the press.
See, I don't think he's a dope. I'm with you on everything else. But the reason he told Falcone, and she says it too, he says, because it put you in his good, like, yes, it's part of, I'm not supposed to talk to the press, and I did, you saw me. So your job is to report up to the boss. But you knew knowing reporting to the boss would put you in his good graces and move you up the ladder, if that makes any sense. Put him in the spotlight, whatever. You did good, Oz. Like, we're going to find work for you or whatever. But I do not think he ever thought that was going to happen to Sophia, unless we get a flashback that he straight up, screwed her over. But we'll see on that. So I kind of like that. But as she's like, she ends up deciding, Sophia's talking to Eve, and she's like, well, did that. And as she's leaving, Eve goes, he's in Crown Point. He told me he's somewhere near the zoo. If he did all that like everybody else, you deserve your shot. And I'm like, yep, I knew it was going to be her the whole time. As I said last week, you don't tell anybody till they're in the car with you. While that's going on, Oz is like, okay, my thing is falling apart with the Bliss. putting it out on the street. Everybody sees how well it's doing. They all want to taste. So he has the Gold Summit, which is the name of the episode. And he goes and he talks to all these like third tier gangs. He's like, and it's basically, and I know you've seen it. You've seen the Warriors, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Warriors, where he tells them like, it's the plot of the Warriors. Like there's more of us than the Falcones and the Gigantes, but we hate each other and we keep undercutting everybody. If we just go together, we could do this. And he's talking to them and he's like, listen to all those rich snobs, and which I kind of like on the other side of the Elliott Bridge. Hush, Joe. That's a term that I might have heard before. So I was like, okay. And I like that he brought the gift and you didn't know what it was. And it was beers. And he ends up giving the Harding speech, and he's like, the one guy in charge of the Asian gang goes like, but you don't even have a code. And he snaps. He's like, I do have a code. And I was talking with Adam about this. I was like, yeah, you do have a code. I just can't figure out what it is yet. You know what I mean? So I like that moment where he like yells in his face, like, I have a code. And he like lays it all out. And Joe, I got goosebumps as they're all opening up the beers, as he's uniting his little army. I'm like, this is so cool. This is so cool. So we're gonna
another moment where I'm watching it and I cheered. I threw my fists up in the air. I was so happy for them all to get together and work with the Penguin. And you mentioned these things, and you said he delivers his speech, and there's like the O'Sullivans or the whatevers, right? And he's like relaying it to them. It's like your ancestor, the one that built that bridge, and your name's not even on it, right?
Right, is that the Sullivan Bridge? No, it's the Elliott Bridge.
Yeah, and I'm just like, Penguin is cutting that go home money wrestling promo to get these people in the seats, right? Everything always comes back to wrestling for me, but it was like electric. It was awesome. And I would have joined right up with the Penguin if I was there myself, if all this was real.
Right. So the episode ends on a high note. He's got all the gang members. Oh no, wait, there's a bit of an epilogue. His mother, who's like just crapping all over Oz, throughout the episode, and to Vic, the lights come back on and the music starts. It's like one of her favorite songs. And Vic's like, you know what? You kind of rag on Oz, but he turned the power back on. It was him. And she gets up, and even though she's like broken down, and it was a heartfelt dance, Joe, where she's like dancing, but she's kind of like, because she has whatever she has, it's like messing with her, and she's dancing with Vic. And
I need to stop you right there.
Yes.
I need to stop you right there. So earlier in the episode where they're going back and forth out of the apartment, right? And at one point earlier in the episode where Penguin's there, and then Vic comes in, and he comes in through the door, there's a very distinct sound that the door makes earlier in the episode.
Right.
So while this is going on and the power comes back on, and Penguin's mom is getting up out of the bed, and Vic is trying to have that conversation with her. If you don't know it, maybe you don't hear it, but you hear that same click from earlier in the episode from the door. And for a split second, Vic looks toward the door, but then Penguin's mom is getting out of the bed.
Right.
So he immediately rushes over to her to make sure that she's okay, because she's had a rough, time in this episode, right? Todd, when I heard that click,
right,
I knew it was bad times.
Well, let me just say this. They're dancing, and I just think it was the wind, Joe. And we're going to end this episode once again after Penguin's got his army. His mom's happy. We're ending on a high note. No. They pan back. They're dancing. And there's Sophia. Like, we don't see the shot, but she's holding the crowbar. And I don't know if you know this. Crowbars in the Batman universe are not good, Joe. Oh, that scene. You were 100% right. You were wrong about the place, but I will 100%. I'm going to take the victory lap that she was the one who ratted him out, and I'm 100% giving you the victory lap of Sophia showing up, and it's going to be bad. Penguin wasn't there, but it was a gut punch when she's standing there. So, oh my God, so
and then
good, Joe.
And then that's how the episode ends. And then my friend Logan, I don't get a chance to watch these things until a little bit later. I don't get the chance to watch them live. But my friend Logan had tweeted out as he's watching it live. And he's like, oh, that's how we're going to end the episode, huh? Mm-hmm. And when I saw that tweet on Sunday night, I knew exactly what he meant. And then I didn't watch it for another day. So it was just hanging over me. And we're still going to get, we're lined up for so many emotional gut punches after the end of that episode. We're going to get the revelation of Vic seeing Sophia there. We're going to get that Sophia speech. We're going to get whatever Sophia's going to do. And then we're going to get the Penguin finding whatever Sophia does, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be boom, 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 boom as we're getting to the end of the season. And this show is so good.
Mm-hmm. Only 2 episodes left. What more can they do, Joe?
Whatever it is, Todd, it ain't going to be good for the people in the show. It's going to be good for us watching. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to have a laugh. We're going to have fun.
I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry.
It's going to be rough stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. So good. Anyway.
But that's it. For TV stuff, there's supposed to be some sort of Spider-Man animated thing this weekend. I don't know. It was teased before, but I don't know where it's going to be or how it's going to be or where you could find it or anything. Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I won't. It might just be like a one and done thing. Mm-hmm. But it's, I doubt we'll be talking about it. Like I said, the next real things that we would have would be Creature Commandos. That's at the beginning of December. So we get the 2 more episodes of Penguin and Agatha, and then we got like a week or 2 off, right?
Yep. And I'll be drinking out of my flask for that Creature Commando.
For sure.
Yep.
So, hey, thanks everyone for listening. This was episode 734 of Longbox Heroes. For Todd, this is Joe saying we'll see y'all here next week.
Remember, be a faucet, not a drain.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.
The Rob is a Longbox hero. The Rob is a Longbox hero. He gives us five stars.